All right, this is it. We are closing enrollment this week for the Renegade Accelerator. So if you've been hearing me talk about it and you have an interest, head to renegadeaccelerator.com, fill out the application. We will connect with you immediately and see if it's a fit, see if it makes sense to go on this journey together. So this is for female leaders, executives, and founders who are ready to 10x the way they think, the way they execute, meet a lot of other like-minded, like-hearted leaders like themselves, and continue to elevate, continue to accelerate. So that's what we're all about. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com. This is the last chance.
I did a week audit. 23% of my stuff was spent on the 9 things that I claim to be most important. Okay. I have this executive coach. He says that all his research, or interviewing 10,000 executives, that high performers spend 65% of their time on what's most important. 65%. I was at 23%. It's like, come on. So I either have to change what I claim to be my WMI or change my behavior. When you're not living who you aspire to be or you want to be, that's when you're off center. That's when you're out of sorts. That's when you get sideways with your partner. That's when you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or make a mistake. And so I've changed my behavior and learned the magic words. No.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. Just let go.
Scott O'Neill is on the show today. He is one of the most decorated, successful sports executives out there. I met Scott when I was working in the NBA for the Phoenix Suns about 12 plus years ago. And he has an energy and a charisma that is contagious. He's made such an impact on my own career that I consider him a mentor from afar. Scott is currently the CEO of the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils. He's also a recent author. The name of his first book is titled Be Where Your Feet Are. I could not put this book down. The way Scott tells his stories, the real stuff, the behind the scenes, what you don't hear about, what you don't see, especially what you can't see on a resume or on a LinkedIn profile that's shiny and sparkly. He gets real. He talks about grief. He talks about failure. And the tangible stories are where it's at. Rather than trying to find and seek balance throughout his career as a father, as a husband, he focuses more on presence, being where your feet are. And he talks through how he manages to do that and practices that on a daily basis. What really captured me is at the beginning of the book, he talks about the mediocre middle. Do we really want to water ourselves down to 5s, right? Sometimes you need that intensity. A lot of times you do. You need that 10 energy. But can you bring a 10 to every portion of your life when you're in that moment? Meaning, can you be fully present with whatever you're doing in the moment? Scott O'Neill, welcome to the Why Not Now show. It's good to have you back on.
I'm thrilled to be here with you. I love your show. I love you. I love the energy you bring into the world. And I'm more than thrilled to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. And I mean, I'm really excited to talk about this masterpiece that you just wrote, Be Where Your Feet Are. But in the spirit of why not now, let's hop in where we usually do. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself the question, why not now? We'll dissect that day, minute, hour, season, and kind of understand how you navigated from idea to action.
Okay, you told me this was going to be the most fun part of my day.
I did.
And I'm going to tell you a story that wasn't so fun.
Okay.
And so I'm going to tell you how I came to actually put pen to paper and start writing a book. And my best friend, Will Carden, took his own life. And it was awful. He was suffering from depression, had been for 10 years, and had thought about suicide several times. And me and several of my friends had talked him through several occasions. And I didn't really understand mental illness or depression or chemical imbalance. And then I got a call one night from Jared Stone, one of my dear friends. And all he said was, Will's gone. I was like, what? Where'd he go? He's like, no. He's gone. He took his own life. And I literally went numb. I just absolutely went numb. I had one of the worst dad moments of my life. My wife came out, it was late at night, and she came in, she's like, what's going on? And I told her, and she's like, I think we have to tell the kids. I mean, this could be on social media. Like, someone's going to text them. Like, I walked downstairs. I'm like, he called Uncle Will. I was like, Uncle Will is dead. He shot himself. And I just literally just turned and walked upstairs. And my wife's like, nice job, Scott. And so then I found myself speaking at his funeral, and I'm looking down at his kids. And all I keep thinking about is he will never be able to share a lesson. He will never be able to tell a story. And then I spiraled, and I found myself in just a bad place. And if anybody listening has ever been in this place, I'm sorry. I had trouble sleeping at night. I had trouble getting up in the morning. I would burst into tears in a meeting. Somebody said something that had nothing to do with anything. And I was just like, have you ever seen those riders on the New York subway that just kind of stare catatonically ahead? That's how I felt. And I was like, it was almost an out-of-body experience. I could see myself like just staring ahead, and I couldn't seem to break out of it. And I started to write. That's what I started to heal. I was writing, just write on my iPad. And I just, I wrote like Forrest Gump was running. I just wrote and wrote. And it started just nonsensically. And then it started to just kind of pull together concepts. And I got to a point where I had literally written 300 pages. And I started to reach out to friends, and they were sharing stories with me. And every story that people were sharing, because I started to share like my most vulnerable moments. And my friend came up, actually Lisa's friend, but he's my friend too, but she's closer to him. Randall Wright came up, and he's written several books. And he's like, your purpose in life is to develop people. He said, that's what makes you happy. He said, what makes you most happy? And I was just telling him, I do this meeting and this meeting. And, I was telling him about the joys that I have in life, and my joys are other people's successes. And he's like, you're built to help people. Like, this can help people. And I was like, I don't know. This is like raw. This is not a victory lap. This is where I learn my lessons. And this is where I, talk about Will, and talk about getting fired, and talk about running the company to the ground, and talking about struggles with my daughters. And like, this is not. And he's like, can you imagine if you can help one person? So I went through you've been through this process before. It's hard to go from there to a book. And then I called my sister-in-law, and she connected me to Jan Miller, who's this great agent. And
we share the same agent.
She's amazing. And Jan, she's a unique character, but has sold over 2,000 books, discovered Stephen Covey, put out a New York Times bestseller like you. And so to get her to represent you, you're in really good hands. And as she said, I can sell anything. And then she connected me with a great writer, Michelle Bender, who actually put all this together. And then St. Martin just bought the book, and the rest is kind of the fun history of it. But my why not now moment is 100% staring at that altar, delivering a eulogy.
Oh, yeah. In the book, just reading that part and this whole section, it's interesting that talk us through that real quick, because for people who haven't read it yet,
Tell us what that was like.
Well, I'm a crier anyway. I mean, I've choked up 3 times already. So I am okay with my emotion. I love emotion. I love to laugh and cry every day. I really do. And that wasn't too cool when you were 13 years old, by the way, or when you were 15, or when you were 18. But as you get a little older, I think, the weight of moments become more important. The gravity of conversations become more relevant. You feel, you get to feel more. So I guess my age is caught up with my emotion over time. And I was a disaster. I mean, I had my kids just tell me, like, it's going to be okay, Dad. Like, they told me that 1,000 times. But walking in, we had gone to the church the night before, and we'd set up chairs. And he was like just a larger than life personality, fun, full of love and service. And so this was a big church. I mean, I think it sat like 1,200-1,500 people. It was huge. And by the time people started rolling in, they'd actually put chairs and video up in the classrooms alongside the church, because it was packed to the gills. There were people like 15 deep on the stage in the back. I mean, it was heavy. It was a heavy time. And I finally had pulled it together. I got up, I worked out. I was in Arizona at this little resort, and they had like a little like makeshift chapel. So I just went there and just chilled there by myself for an hour. I came back. I was like, I'm good to go. I literally walked in. My daughter's like, yay. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to head over early, but I'll see y'all over there. And we just had this like party the night before, which was so surreal. It's like, funerals are like, they're amazing. Like, they're not what this funeral was for me, the actual funeral, but like, it's these incredible celebrations. Like the funeral for my dad, it's a party for 500 people. Everyone you love comes together. It's so awesome. And then remember, I got to the church and I saw the bishop there that I met the night before. He's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And then I just kind of fell apart again. And I was like, so how's this work? Like, who's speaking in my church? Like, it's Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they have these apostles, and 2 apostles were speaking at his funeral. He's very close to these 2 guys. And I was like, oh, great, and it's just great that they were coming and pay tribute to this great man. It also is like, just puts more weight on everything, and so I was like, hey, Bishop, like, where do I sit? Like, because I knew there were going to be a lot of people there. And so a lot of our good friends were sitting on the stage, on the stand, which was pretty neat. And then I just kept seeing like familiar face after familiar face. I just sat. He's like, just stay to the right. It's like all the dignitaries and like, the church people, they'll all be on the left. Just stay on the right. And I was like, oh, all right, So I sat right against the wall, and I was just drinking my water and reading over my talk. And then I felt like this grip on my arm, and it was one of the apostles, Elder Anderson. He's like, Brother O'Neill, what are you doing over here? I was like, hey man, I'm just trying to stay out of the way. Like, he's like, no, this isn't gonna work. He's like, let's go. You're sitting with me. And so he's like, he has this vice like grip, just takes me across the stand, and I can feel, because he's, it'd be like a senator walking you across there, or like if you're a Catholic, like an archbishop or some big dignitary walking you across the stage. All the eyes are following him, and he walks up, and I don't know who the guy was. He's like, Brother O'Neill sitting here, so I'm sure. So I'm good. I just want to, be here. And we sit down, and I just, just like let go of my arm. And I was like, okay. And then this guy got up and he gave this like longest prayer in the history of prayers. And you ever like sit in church and you do like the Popeye thing where you open one eye? Like, I was kind of doing the Popeye. I had the eyes closed, and it was so long. I gave like the little one eye. What is happening up there? And I knew I was first. And so I was starting to strap, my heart rate was going. And then he grabs my arm after the prayer. He's like, this is not entertainment. This is the house of the Lord, and blah, blah, blah. This is not. And I was like, is he talking about me? Is he talking about that guy? So I scratched like 2 jokes, like as fast as I can. I just scratched on my thing. And then like my name's called. I'm like, okay. And I got up and I gave my talk. And essentially it was a talk where I I gave a message to each of the kids.
Oh, right.
And then it was amazing. And I guess it was going a little long because I got tapped 3 times and I was like, yeah, I'm not ready. And then it was over. Then you go home, and just like any other funeral you've ever been to, whether it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friend, your neighbor, and then, life happens, but I still couldn't dig out. And I've had a pretty, from the outside, life is amazing, for everybody. And you look at Instagram, and you're a great follow, by the way, everybody should follow you. And you look at Twitter, and it's great, and you're good. You're one of the rare follows. You share some of the struggle. Like I love that because I get a little window into your world, and I think that's awesome. But for the most part, social media gives you this veneer, this picture that everything is, it's like the Lego guy. Everything is awesome, right? Like it's that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there isn't. Like it's because I do want to see like the happy moments. I do. Like I want to see the graduation, or the kid got out of school with a winning goal, and the new boyfriend or what. Like I love seeing that stuff. I really do. I'm not cynical. I actually love it. I just want everyone to understand that like life's messy.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And like when we were young, we thought everything was the fairy tale. And it's not that you can't have that fairy tale. It's just that getting to that fairy tale is not like hopping on the horse and eating an apple and strolling through the kingdom and having the wedding. Like that's not what it is. It's the joy that we find in the struggle. It's the joy that we find in the connections when we trip and fall. It's the joy that we find when we learn this most incredible lesson from a failure we had. That's the joy. That is the Disney moment. It's not the crowning. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something I'm not sure we could ever penetrate on social media. And so it kind of, if I'm with my 14-year-old daughter and her girlfriends are all together and they're making TikTok videos, to her, that's the eye of the storm. I'm like, nah, it's not the eye of the storm. You good. But to her, it is. My other one, all my daughters crash cars. It's kind of a thing in our house. And so, my latest one to crash a car, by the way, insurance companies will throw you off their insurance. We're off insurance. So we had to go get whatever the state insurance is. Okay. For the desperate of the desperate, that actually happened. But she crashed a car. She's the eye of the storm. That's the end of the world. I'm like, the only end of the world is like, you're okay. That's my world. Care about the car. I mean, you're a terrible driver, but I don't care about the car. And so I think for me, part of Be Where Your Feet Are is just about what I'm talking about. It's about let's get a little vulnerable. Let's share moments so other people can understand what life looks like, what life really is like. And that if you're in one of those holes, if you crash your car, if you get a divorce, if you struggle with pregnancy, or you have miscarriages, or you lose your job, or you get fired, or you run a company to the ground, or you have a daughter with social anxiety, all this stuff's happened to me, by the way, all that stuff, everything I mentioned, right? Your friend takes his own life, or anything else that's important to you, that it's going to be okay. It will be okay. And you have to figure out a way to get through it. And if you're struggling, raise your hand and get help. Mm-hmm. And if you're feeling great about yourself and your glass is full and life is good and the wind is at your back, be aware. Like flip on Zoom and see who has their video off. Or, if someone's voicemail box is full, reach out or stop in at a neighbor who you haven't talked to. Or like, we need to help each other. The world needs connection. We need people. We need each other. And that's the joy.
We're going to take a quick break and hear from Jamie Christ. She's a Renegade graduate. She's a friend, and she shares how the Renegade Accelerator helped her pivot from a decade-long career at Under Armour into a fast-growing startup called Super Coffee, which you've heard me talk about before. I'm a proud consumer and investor, and she is just thriving, and how that change, that transition probably wouldn't have been possible if she hadn't gone through the program.
What the Renegade Accelerator program did for me was really make me focus for that time on the calendar, that if it's weekly or monthly, it just really made me have to take that time out to focus on me and prioritize myself on what's next. And honestly, if I didn't do that with this program at the time that I did in my career, I don't think I would have been able to switch jobs, or even during a pandemic, never did I imagine that I would leave a brand of almost 13 years and make that jump to more of a startup company that's growing and thriving, and really having those tools in my toolkit to say, this is what I can do. And I know I can do it because of coming out of this program and taking the time that I invested in myself, which was really important. Renegades write the rules.
Oh my gosh, so many things that you just touched on that are on my list of wanting to just double down on and double click here. So first of all, you talk a lot about how isolation is kryptonite in the book. And for anyone listening, what you just heard Scott share, I can't underline that enough as well. Moving your body, talking to people, like when we retreat like that, it becomes 100 times worse. So thank you for sharing that, as one of the, if not the most, one of the most decorated, sports executives out there. You look at your resume, you pull up Scott's LinkedIn, and it's a lot of fancy stuff. So the fact that you wrote this and shared behind the scenes, I can tell you for sure you're making a huge impact as a leader, but sharing other people's stories as well. And you talk a lot about developing people. And so what a tool this is. I know I've mentioned this before, but I think of 2008 NBA league meetings when you gave your talk, trying to rally us because it was a little bit of a dark season, right? I mean, best of times, the worst of times. And you talk about being kind of in that sage season and sharing these other stories. One of the things that hit me the most about your book, and for those who are listening and maybe not watching, Scott is standing right now, right? So I have interviewed almost 300 people. I've never had anyone stand. It kind of tells you the type of person Scott is, like competitive, intense, like definitely I feel that, right? Runs hot. And you talk about the mediocre middle and how you don't want to be there. And this word balance and be where your feet are and how this all comes together. And I feel the same. I've always been like, why would I want to be a 5 and be watered down when I'm great at 10? And my husband's like, yeah, but you're kind of intense too at times. But
right.
Like,
the world doesn't always pay off at 10s. You know what I mean? And it's hard to work in an environment as a 10. And I mean, a 10 of talent, 10 of intensity, 10 of will, 10 of ambition, 10 of growing up as a 10. And he's so easy.
And not easy to be around, right? Kind of.
No. Yes. And so we find partners that complement us. We've talked about this. I need Lisa. Like my Lisa, she is my friends. I'll say they're Team Lisa, which I think is so funny. I'm like, me too. Okay. I am too. But I do. She keeps the focus. She keeps the trains running. She keeps me on the rails because my life looks a lot like this. My emotion up and down, and hers is a lot more steady. And so yeah, we definitely for sure that 10 running hot.
Right. But then, I mean, one of your tools is truly being present, right? So if someone was to look at your schedule, there, it'd be a little dizzying, I imagine, but it is designed, it is very intentionally designed, right? So when you're with your kids, you're with your kids, and you might be driving a little fast across town to get to something, right? But
it's not. This is not. I'm trying to pull up my schedule, see how it looks. But this is my schedule. You can only see some of it. It's pink. There's not a lot of white there. So I will say, and I'm not perfect at this. This is what I aspire to be. And Lisa's got 2 great tools which everyone should put in place. So this is her. If I pick my phone up, I'll wait. That's what she says. I'll wait. I was like, no. This is play out. No. That's probably more important than our conversation. So I'll wait. Let me know. And I was like, that doesn't make me feel great. I'll be honest with you, but it's a great tool. What if we say, I'll wait? I went to lunch with some friends the other day. I hadn't seen them in a year because of COVID. They all had their phones. When I walked up, I was like, guys, we're better than this. No. If you have somewhere else to be, like, go do it. But what are you looking at? What are we actually scrolling for or towards? TikTok? What are we doing?
Yeah. What is that?
Text them 15 times. Do you have to respond to your text in 5 seconds? No.
Yeah.
I'm like, I haven't seen you all in a year. Let's go.
Yeah. Your meetings internally, you have a phone table, right?
We do. We have a phone basket at home. Girls hate it. Can you imagine? Teenage girl, like, give me your phone. No. I'm like, yeah. Put it in the basket.
Right,
you know?
right.
And but like we have simple rules, like no phones at the dinner table, which seems so obvious. But I had the biggest awakening. I had so many like great learnings over COVID. I know people lost their lives and jobs were lost and people were sick. And so I don't want to make light of that. But for me, I didn't have that. I was a hermit, but I didn't have that. But I had family dinners. I hadn't had family dinners for 25 years.
Wow.
This is the most embarrassing thing, which I'll share, is I got conversation starter cards and brought them to dinner. I know it's so embarrassing because like I'm a good conversationalist usually. And yet I'm with these 3 amazing daughters of mine and my wife. And I'm like, okay, what'd be your ideal vacation and why? Okay, what's one time you were really embarrassed and and I was like, that's how it started. Fortunately, our conversation got more natural after that. But I wanted to talk. I wanted to talk about social justice with them. I wanted to talk about the president and the chaos that was going on in this country. I wanted to talk about religion and how it intersects with society. I wanted to talk about growth and learning and all this stuff. And I didn't want to say, how are you doing? Fine. How was school? Okay. What's up? Nothing. I want to go to my room. I was like, yeah, no, let's talk. Because if there's one thing we learned in COVID, it's that time's our most precious resource. Time is our most precious resource. It's not money. It's nothing else except for time. And how we use that time, how we truly be where our feet are, is put your phone down, get your head up, and let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. Ask your kid. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. You know what I don't want to do? Put on another Office rerun. By the way, I love The Office. Okay, I don't need to see another one. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, but we're tired and we're stressed and we're anxious and we're working hard. And sometimes we just need a break. But you know what? It's like, if you really look at the time you have with people you love, people you care about, people you want to connect with, how much real quality time do you have? It's not quantity. It's not, because we don't have quantity. And so I don't care. I know how hard you work. I know you. I know how hard you work. I know what you commit to. I know you don't wake up and be as great as you are. It's impossible. You have to work hard to do this. And so sometimes you're tired, but how much time do you have? Like, I think about that my time with Lisa, and COVID's cool. Like I'm still working out of my house. So between this call and my next call, I go out and chill, even if it's 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, how long do you have? I'm like, 10 minutes. How long do you have? 15 minutes. How long do you have? 5 minutes. And what a gift to go get a hug.
Yeah. It's amazing.
But other than that, like in regular course of life, can we max out that time?
Mm-hmm.
And our mornings, chaos. Kids going to school, try to get teenage girls out of the house without chaos. Try. Good luck. I don't survive in advance.
Oh,
but the NCAA tournament, but for us, it's that time. I'm trying to make better moments happen.
And you said there are 2 tools. So I'll wait. So if someone picks up their phone and you're in the conversation or you're getting ready to start one, you just put your hand up, you say, oh, I'll wait. What's the second tool? Okay.
So the second one she's used on me quite a bit is because I get very emotional after losses. Okay. Now I have a big business now. I mean, we have the Sixers and the Devils and an innovation lab and a venture fund and a real estate company and a sports marketing company, esports business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Grand Museum, theaters. And so it's a big business, but the loss is still staying for these teams. So I'd be coming home stomping around and she's hit me on this a couple of times. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? What am I doing? Like, what's this? What's happening? It's like, did you not watch the game? Yeah, I watched the game. Did you not see us get booed? I saw you get booed. Well, she's like, well, this ain't going to work. I'm like, what's not going to work? This attitude. I'm like, my attitude? She's like, yeah, your attitude. She's like, I need a husband. I need a dad. And so I was like, oh, right. Yeah, of course. Of course you do. I mean, yeah, I need change. So it's just feedback. Get someone who loves you enough to tell you. I called one of my best friends the day after that happened. And he's like, you don't have a worry tree outside your house? I'm like, oh, worry tree? No, I don't have one of those, but I need one. He said, yeah, I have a worry tree. I drive up, get out of my car, put my hand in this tree, all my worries go up.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, I don't have one of those. I'm still looking. I've touched every tree in my property, and my worries don't disappear. He's like, it's not about the tree. It's about how you're going to compartmentalize. And that's the key. And whether that's your drive home or some of us work at home, it's harder, but what does that compartmentalization look like? Do you need to, for me, it's if I'm in the car, I howl at the moon. Okay. Turn the music, howl at the moon.
You howl at the moon. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I
do you roll your window down?
Yes. I say some things in the car that should never be heard or said. Okay. And then I get home and I'm back. And I literally pull in and I'm back. And when I'm at my best, I walk in, put my phone in the drawer, and I engage. But the best thing you can get is have someone in your life that loves you enough to tell you the truth.
Oh, so good. So good. Okay. So you talk a lot about what's most important, right? So your WMI, you share the story about, being the president of MSG and it's your dream job and here you are. And then all of a sudden it's gone. You get fired. And the fact that you share and you are open about the journey is amazing. But what I circled was after you got through, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about the conversation with your mentor who was like, yo, you need to check out and go on vacation. Like that was a powerful moment.
Yeah. So Peter Guber, who's this incredible luminary, runs Mandalay Entertainment, is a part owner of the Dodgers and Warriors and LAFC. He just seems to be there when I need him. He was there in like my first week at MSG, and he was there my last week at MSG. And my last week, he's like, my man, you seriously need to put your type A crazy in your pocket and do not let it out. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, no. I know you. Like, you are going to try to prove to the world that you're smart and you're accomplished and you're talented and you can do it. And it's not, And he's like, everybody knows already. You don't have to prove anything. It's like, what you need to do is decompress. I was like, what? Decompress. What? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you need a vacation. I was like, nah, I don't need a vacation. I don't, I'm fine. He says, no. You need to get away and put your phone down and go read books and look at sunsets and go somewhere with Lisa. And we did. We ended up, and I kicked and screamed a little bit, but I'm like, why am I fighting going on vacation? What? I have nothing to do. There's no, I'm not going to respond to anybody. Like, it's amazing when you leave a job like that, the volume of email traffic goes, it goes from 300 to 30 a day, and that's your mom saying, hey, honey, just checking up on you. Yeah. And so we went down to Cabo and I just read. I just would get up in the morning and watch the sunrise and read, and phone never left the room. Hung out by the pool, went on a horseback ride, which I didn't love, but it was great. And then I took the girls out of school and we went to Europe. They'd never been to Europe. So they were young at the time. And they still say that's the best vacation we've ever had. We've had such fun vacations. And like, you wonder, why is that the best vacation I ever had? It's not because we went to London and Paris. By the way, great cities. I love them both. It's because I was there. I wasn't taking calls. I wasn't staying up late to do my catch-up emails or texts. I wasn't interrupting to take a quick conference call. I was wholly where my feet were. Wholly present. Yeah, that's a really special time. I advocate that for everyone that is in a transition. It's like, you have to decompress. And I don't mean to say everyone can take a trip to Mexico or Europe. I just was in one of those jobs where I got a big severance. It's part of my contract. So God bless America. But decompression isn't about going to a fancy place. It's about finding an escape, shutting down. And that's about, you can go to wherever you feel happy. That can be in the woods somewhere. It could be on a farm. It could be traipsing across the country in a Winnebago. You've got to find that peace and find yourself again. I just find, like, I don't know. It's like you get on these jobs and you're just on that treadmill and you are going 100 miles an hour. And then you hop off and you start to read again and think again and learn again and talk to people, reconnect, and just try to find yourself, make sure you're whole. But the WMI, for me, the best exercise that anyone could ever do, if you only do one thing coming out of this podcast, you just write down personally, relationship-wise, and at work, what are the three things that are most important? Like, what's critical? What is most important? Three things for each. then take your calendar and map your calendar to those 9 things, and you will be humbled. Okay. Because I was. Well, I hope you're not as humbled as I was. I had 23% of my stuff. I did a week audit. 23% of my stuff was spent on the 9 things that I claimed to be most important. I had this executive coach, Brendan Burchard. He's amazing. He says that all his research, or interviewing 10,000 executives, that high performers spend 65% of their time on what's most important. 65%. I was at 23%. It's like, come on. So I either have to change what I claim to be my WMI or change my behavior. I got one or the other, right? Because you can't live. I always think when you're not living who you aspire to be or you want to be, that's when you're off center. That's when you're out of sorts. That's when you get sideways with your partner. That's when you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or make a mistake. And so I've changed my behavior and learned the magic words. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Full sentence right there, isn't it? Wow. Okay. So there was another time I think it was after the startup, but before you joined Teambo in the MBA, which is when I got to know you, and you talked about getting back maybe after you got your MBA. But anyway, you made 200 phone calls in a matter of a few days. And I read that and I was like, no, I know obviously he did that. There are very few people that would do that, and not emails, phone calls. So for those people who are listening right now and they're pivoting or they're wanting a big change, what a signal. Pick up the phone. We just don't do that as much anymore. We text, we email. But what did that sound like?
Yeah. Well, I do want to take them back a little bit because I just talked about leaving MSG and having severance and everything was awesome. And I'm like on vacation in Cabo. This was very different. This was out of work, out of luck, out of money. This was foreclosure notices on my house. That's what this was. This was, I was not in a good emotional state. I had just lost a lot of money for a lot of people, $15 million. I had just fired 53 people, including my brother, some of my best friends in the world, who I conned into coming into this, let's go see it change the world company. So I was not in a good headspace. And for me, I retreat to basketball. That's like my escape from the world. Everybody needs an escape from the world. And that's when I started. My wife's like, have you played any pickup lately? She's like, this is my big prompter. I was like, yeah. Get yourself together. It's like, hey, have you read this book? So that's Lisa prompting me. And I had my oldest, who's now 21, was just turning 1. So she's just starting to walk. So I go on these long walks and have these long talks with her. She had no idea what I was talking about. I just talked to her, and I started to find myself again. So I just don't want to pretend that everything was great. And I picked up the phone and got a job because that's what happened. But it was 3 months of me fumbling and struggling and not picking up the phone and not sending an email and not having I still don't have a resume. I haven't had a resume. It's been 15, that's a long time. I was like, you just read my bio. I don't know how to do a resume. But yeah, no, then I went into action. I came home one day. I remember the moment. I was walking with Alexa. I have a picture of that day. And it's me. I have a big umbrella on. I have my Hoops TV shirt on. It says ball, blah, blah on the back. And she would always be pushing this cute little stroller. And she was the cutest little kid. She had always wore sunglasses, even when it was raining. She had sunglasses on. Really cute. It was cute little sandals that girls have. And she's pushing a stroller, and I got this umbrella. And I come back, and I just remember saying to Lisa, I'm ready to go. And she's like, all right, well, I'm sure. She's like, because she handles all, she pays the bills and manages, I never have dealt with any of that stuff since we've been married 25 years. So I didn't even understand the financial pressure we were under, which she was hiding. And then I came home. She's like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to call everyone I know. And she's like, what are you going to tell them? I was like, I'm going to tell them I'm looking for a job. I need help. And that's something that hasn't been I'm not good at asking for help. It's not my strength. I love helping people. That's my joy. Lending a hand, helping someone, talk through a career change or challenge or find something new or take on a new business or start a business. That's stuff I love, helping. But picking up the phone and saying, hey, I need you, was hard. And I just went. And so I just made a list, put the numbers down next to it, called, and had my way. And, fortunately, within 3 weeks, I had really interesting things that I was talking through. And it was fun. And I ended up at MBA at Teambo. I almost went to work for Tim Lewicki at AG, which would have been really fun because that was before AG really exploded. But that was what I was really interested in. And I talked to Paul Fireman at Reebok, and they'd just done the NFL deal about running that JV. That would have been a cool job as well. But something about the NBA and David Stern and Adam Silver, I couldn't get enough. And what they wanted me to do, I thought was the coolest job of all time. And my interview with David Stern was kind of funny. I don't think I say this in the book, but when I went in to interview, Adam Silver walked me. Seth Berger, who founded the N1, who's my partner at Hoops TV, who works with me now, runs the innovation lab at the Sixers in the Small World Story. He called Adam, was like, Scott's the guy. He should work the NBA. So Adam, calls me back and connects with David. And he's like, you need to go see the commissioner. I was like, okay. So I go in and see the commissioner, and he has his back to me for 20 minutes in the interview. So this is right there. So what can you possibly do for me? What? From Hoops TV, like that, 20 minutes. And Adam's there, and just like Adam has this amazing way with people. He's like, well, David, I'm not sure if you remember Scott's background, but let me just walk you through it. He walks through the background. Like, he has spent his career at teams before Hoops TV. The last time I'd seen him, he'd been threatening, like, you'll visit every lawyer down the way, because with the footage we were using and all stuff. So he was threatening me. So, and then he turns around, like, after 20 minutes, he's like, all right, go see Bernie Mullen right now. I was like, okay. Or he's like, you don't know who Bernie Mullen is? I said, no, I don't. He's like, yeah, Linda will take you down to Gap. I was like, okay. So I walk in to see Bernie Mullen, who's running Teambo at the time. They went on to run the Hawks and Thrashers, good friends, amazing guy. And I walk in his office, he's like, okay, so Uncle David just called. Looks like we'll be working together. And I was like, say what?
Love it. Oh.
Yeah. So that's why I got hired there. So it's like funny how those things,
Oh my gosh.
And then I had a great run. I worked with Dr. Bill Sutton and Bernie
Dr.
Mullen.
Bill Sutton, yes.
Yeah, Andy Hirsch. And that group became, and then when Bernie left to run the Hawks and Thrashers, my team, Chris Granger, he runs the Tigers and Red Wings now, and Tom Glick, who now runs Carolina Panthers, Chris Hex, the president of the Sixers, Dan Reeves, the president of Facebook Sports Entertainment, Amy Brooks, president of the NBA. It was a crazy team. Like, there was just talent everywhere, so it was a fun time.
Yeah.
But that moment of calling, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, the phone's not going to ring. Okay. I hate to break it to you. So here's note to self. No one's calling. And I have not had a lot of success with recruiters. I've never had a job from recruiters. And my experience with them, I don't know, maybe I just don't say the right thing or do the right thing, but I have not had a lot of success on that front. And if you do and you're listening, good for you. If you've been placed by great recruiters, that's awesome. What I talk to my team about is, if you're going to go for a job, figure out what you want to do, not what's available. Like, what do you want to do? What's the bullseye? That's what I always ask. What's your bullseye? Because once you understand your bullseye, then you can understand, like, you might not be qualified for your bullseye. You might not be able to get it, but can't we start there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go on offense, right? Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
Start. Yeah.
And that applies for, if you're looking for funding, if you're looking to try and rate, like, courting VCs or whatever, like, picking up that phone. It's not going to ring.
Good VC. I was talking to, I'm on the board of some early stage companies. And one wants to call my out. It's a cybersecurity company. It's unbelievable tech, but really early stage, really early. And I was talking to the CEO this weekend, and I was saying, he said, hey, he would walk me through what's happening. He said, any thoughts? And I said, just one. He said, all right, what's that? I said, you great job. You're doing amazing. He's an amazing CEO. I said, well, how many VCs do you think he pitched to get rid? And he just got funded. He's like, 75, 80. I was like, okay, great. Here's my one thought. My one thought is, you just got your funding. Let's tell all 74 that you just got funding. And once a month, I want you to send a note to each of those 74 that didn't invest. Okay. And give them a little FOMO. Just give them a little. Okay. And then as you're getting ready for the next round, because the one thing I failed to do as an early stage guy was, I did not focus on my next round of funding. That's the only thing I didn't focus on. Some other things too, but that was the most important thing I didn't focus on. And then we got to the end of the rainbow. It's like, okay, there's no funding. What am I going to do? Then we scrambled and the business collapsed. And so, talk about a lesson you can learn. That's one, and he's like, I know, I've got my current investors. I've got to grow this business. I've got the tech team where I said, no. All that stuff. Nothing will matter if you do not raise your Series A. Nothing. And so it's really interesting to think about like how you put processes so that what processes are you putting in place in your life, in your work, to make sure that you're not staring at that tree instead of the forest. That tree is right in front of your face. All I'm just saying is just pull that lens back a little bit, figure out like, and I said, in your WMI, and I used language with him, it's going to be that next race. Like that has to be 1, 2, or 3 on your list. And it's interesting how you, if you're listening right now, that might apply because you might not be raising money. You might be at a different aspect of your life, but just pull that lens back a little bit. Have a vision and a view of what you want in a year, what you want in 2 years, what you want in 3 years. My friend Henry Johnson said the other day, runs Northern Trust, the trust company. He said, I overestimate what I can do in a day, but I underestimate what I can do in a year. So think about that. Mm-hmm. Like, isn't that really interesting?
Yeah.
Because I do that too.
Yeah.
It's like, I always have like, it's like 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack, right? Every day. Mm-hmm. But a year, if you actually put something out there and say like, okay, you know, I'm going to have one of the best podcasts in the world, like you do. You know, you couldn't do that in a day. Like, it's just not going to happen. But if you have a vision for what you want to do,
you can.
And then you dedicate the time and you have a plan, for sure, you'll figure it out. You're smart, you're talented, you're driven, people love you, you have a gift. But you're not snapping your fingers, not happening. It's just not going to happen.
Right. And so given, I mean, you're overseeing all these different aspects of business, one of which is your fund, the innovation lab. Like, there's a lot of investing. And as a female investor now for 10 plus years, early seed stage angel, one of my goals is to get more women a seat at the cap table, not just a seat at the table. And you've been an advocate and had female leadership around you all your leadership career. How do we accelerate that, Scott? How can we get more women on the table, the real table?
Yeah, well, I mean, we do. I mean, we have, I wish I had the facts and stats, but our innovation lab, I believe the founders, 36% of them are women, I believe. But I don't want to be held to that number, but it's in my head.
For founders?
Yeah.
And what about investors too?
No, you know, I'd have to look deeper. I mean, that's a great point. How we can do that, I'm not sure. I will say that that's a really, really great point. Who was I talking to? Oh, Sun Yin from who runs Duke, Coach K Leadership. Do you know her, Sun Yin? If not, I need to make a connection. Oh boy, she'd be a wonderful guest on this podcast.
Okay.
I'm gonna make that a joke. So she was talking to her the other day. She's one of the great world thought leaders in terms of building teams and business and leadership, and she's a coach for the Coaching of the Stars. She has begun, she told me, she's like, I know that's the next step. And so she's begun to be an investor, an advisor. And that's gotten her on the cap table just because she's so well networked, so well respected, and is a thought leader in the world. Mm-hmm. And that might be a way to do it. I think the world, look, my business, when I walked in, we had 95% white men, 95% white men. Highest ranking person was a VP. There's a woman. And now, like, I've got 18 VPs that are women. I've got our chief operating officer, our chief revenue officer, our 2 heads of marketing, our chief people officer, our GM of our building, blah, 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 blah. We have, 13 SVPs and up. So it's a business run by women now. And as you know, I'm my good friend, Angela Ruggiero, do you know her? She should be on your podcast too. I got 2 connections to make.
Awesome.
She calls me a man-ambassador, which I'll take.
A man-ambassador.
Isn't that a great name? Yeah, cool
I love it.
Cool. Yeah, she runs an innovation company, innovation lab up in Boston, and she's like one of the most accomplished women hockey players in the history. She's like, how do we get women? Well, they're experts. Like, women are experts in the world, and I think coming in as advisors and getting advisorships is a great way to get on the cap table.
It's a great start, and that's one of the things we teach in the Renegade Accelerator. And the reason I'm so interested in this is, most of my mentors have been male, and I now have more women, which is amazing. But I've been fortunate to learn, and even starting small. So once you kind of start getting in the deal flow now that I'm seeing, it's just like, oh, I didn't know that you invest. And it doesn't even have to be huge amounts. I think there's this understanding that you have to have millions and millions of dollars at a time to put into these companies, which isn't the case, but you still, you think about the intellectual capital that can go along with a little bit of financial capital, and we aren't taught that necessarily.
I love that. No, I love that. I also think too, I'm just thinking now as you're talking, I mean, we've set up, we have a stock appreciation pool. So like our top 30, several of whom are women now, own a piece of this company. So
They
which is
are.
awesome.
Yeah.
We set up what we call an ICP, an investors carry pool. So any new business we start, if it hits a certain hurdle, 20% of that goes to the top executives. So again, I've got another like 40 people on that. So that, I guess that is a way, if you're running a company and you believe that diversity is a sustainable competitive advantage, which I do, then you can structure parts of your business to make sure that they get a lift. And I think that's probably a good way to do it as well.
So to bring us back around and wrap us up here, Scott, let's put you back before that phone call that you got, at the beginning of the show. If you were to go back and just say something to yourself before this was about to unfold, which has led to us even being here right now talking about it, right? I mean, what would you say to yourself?
I would say, let yourself feel, be okay with the emotions, and like make sure that you're in tune with how you're feeling them. I would say get some professional help for sure. I should have definitely gone to see a therapist or someone to help me like work through what I was dealing with. I would say, don't be alone. I'm a classic extrovert. I get energy from people. And I think I probably pulled back into the darkness a little bit. And it's a great quote from Martin Luther King, which I'll butcher, but it's something like, darkness cannot take out darkness, only light can take out darkness. And so I think for me, light is people, and just to make sure I'm leaning on the connection with people.
It's huge. Thank you. Thank you for doing the important work, and leading and sharing your time and wisdom with us today too.
Amy Jo Martin, you are amazing and a treat to the world and a gift to all of us fortunate to call you a friend. I root for you more than I root for anybody. I love your work. I love your podcast. I love the energy you put out in the world, and you are simply amazing.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?